Okay, cool.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
All right, residents, if you guys can hear me and test your icons, give me a thumbs up icon. Man, that's 2, that's good. 3, 4, Lewis, fantastic. All right, you guys can hear me okay. I will get a little closer so I fill the frame a little better. There we go. So my name is Erik Fadiman, and I'm a professor of graphic design at Seattle Central College. We work up on the 5th floor, and I've been teaching here for about 15 years. I'm also a practicing web designer and web developer, and I think that Seattle Central is one of the best programs in the city if you want to pursue a career in graphic design. And I'll try to explain why there's a number of reasons why it's really a great opportunity and what we do really well. I'm a practicing graphic designer. Most of the other faculty members are also practicing graphic designers or have been practicing graphic designers fairly recently. We have 3 great foundations to our program, and that we give you real world skills, foundational training and vocational training that's designed to help you get a job and enter the workforce as quickly as possible. Particularly for young people, those of you who are 17 or 18 right now, it's good to know that if you go through our program, you can be employed in Seattle by the time that you're 20. Now, some of you might not want to be employed right away. Some of you might be pursuing other educational opportunities. That's fine too. But our primary focus is giving you the skills so that you can be job ready on day 1. We do this through a series of foundational classes and core principles of graphic design and ideas in graphic design which really don't go out of fashion. There are certain ways that you do things right, that we've been doing things for a long time, and we actually have a deep foundation on best professional practices. Another part of your graphic design education is focused on software. I'm sure many of you are familiar with things like Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. Software is not the entire solution. Software is a tool or a means to an end. But understanding the software is a big part of becoming a graphic designer. We teach you how to use the software so that you can be highly functional in your professional when the time comes. And then the third core principle that we use in making our program really successful is we have a lot of contact with our alumni. So after our students graduate, and a lot of them enter the workforce, and many of them end up working for places like Microsoft or Amazon as things like a UX designer, and some work for Starbucks and Nordstrom and other businesses in town. And some work for design studios, and some work in motion graphics and are making film and television and commercials. But we have a great rapport and a great network with many of our alumni as they continue in the workforce. And we keep in touch with them and we say, how are you doing it at your job right now? What are the best professional practices that you can share with us so we can share those with our students? So these combination of these 3 things, that foundation, software, and alumni connections, allow us to give you this sort of educational foundation, which will prepare you in a really great fashion to be working in Seattle in a short amount of time. Now, the program is really difficult. It's really challenging. For those of you who have a strong academic background and are self-starters and are motivated and like to work hard and aren't afraid of big workload, you can get a lot out of the time that you spend in our program. We do something called marching in lockstep, and that everyone takes the same classes. And our classes meet 5 days a week from 9 till 2, except for on Fridays when there's a class which meets from 9 till 3, which is called New Media. But you have something, the concept is similar to that of a homeroom, and that you and your classmates come to a classroom and you sit at the same desk every day, and a different instructor comes in every day. So Monday might be Photoshop with Jason Hoppy, and Tuesday might be typography with Jill Vartanesian, and Wednesday might be web design with me. That's my focus, is teaching web design, UX design, mobile app design, motion graphics, user experience design, and HTML and CSS. So my classes overlap the creative skills and the technical skills. Not everybody wants to go into technology, but you probably know that understanding of technology is super helpful in terms of finding a job in today's job market. So if you have an inclination for those sort of things, or even if you're struggling with it, I can demystify the technology I can help you learn the software tools, and I can give you the skills along with all of our other instructors that can help you become a better practicing designer and have more opportunity in the job market in Seattle. So once you're in the classroom, it will vary from day to day. Some instructors talk more, some instructors talk less, but we try to have a practical, hands-on, real-world education. I might lecture for 45 minutes in the beginning of the morning, and then we might have student presentations. And we're really focused on developing your presentation skills and speaking in front of a crowd. No idea gets built in isolation in graphic design. Ideas get built by great teams. And you can get great teams to help you build things if you can communicate your ideas through speaking. Now, some of you might be a little intimidated by speaking in front of a crowd or presenting in front of a crowd, but we have a structured, supportive environment which helps you become a better public speaker so you can talk about your ideas and you get people on board to produce those ideas. After student presentations, we might have some software instruction, we'll take a break, and then in the afternoon, we'll have something called the design sprint. So graphic design is a fast-paced, high-pressure environment. It's not for the faint of heart. And we try to simulate scenarios where the students have to work really quickly and solve a creative problem, and then make a small presentation at the end of that sprint. I'll divide the students into teams of 3 or 4. I'll give them a problem to solve and suggest which tools they might use, and then tell them to just go for it. And sometimes we play music, and sometimes we make it fun and silly, and sometimes we make it serious. And then at the end of those 45 minutes, they say, wow, that went by really quickly. And it's a great introduction to what it's like to work in a professional studio. Many of my previous students have said to me that once they work in a professional environment, they say, wow, my new job is just like your class, only easier. So our environment is very demanding. There's a lot of pressure, but there's a lot of opportunity for personal growth and to develop the sort of skill sets that help you get a job in a short amount of time. And while each instructor might do it a little bit differently, you will have a lot of homework every day. So there's 5 hours of class time from 9 till 2. Maybe you won't be there the whole 5 hours because we take a few breaks and we stop for lunch. But over the course of 5 hours, there's about 4 hours of instruction. And on any given day for your 5 classes, you might have 5 hours of homework. So it is a very demanding, high pressure environment, but it produces fantastic results. If you were to go on LinkedIn, you could see a lot of our alumni working at places like Amazon and Microsoft, now working as senior designers. And overall, we get a great response from our students, and they say they like their work, they're happy with their work, they're getting paid handsomely, and they feel that they had a great opportunity to work in our program and learn the skills that it takes to be an employed professional here in Seattle. More specifically, drilling down into the classes that I teach web design and I teach UX design. You might not have heard that term, UX design, user experience design. This is the design of mobile apps. We don't code the mobile apps, but we use prototyping tools like Figma and XD to make prototypes that say, how would I solve this sort of problem for the user? And we make websites using HTML and CSS, and we actually get them up on the web and we put them in front of people. We make marketing materials, we make videos, we make short motion graphics pieces with a tool called After Effects, but all it is what we would call digital design. So there are other instructors who focus mostly on print design, but I focus mostly on digital design. If you want to be employed in Seattle nowadays, it's highly likely that many more of the jobs are focusing on digital design skill sets, and that's what I focus on. There's a lot of rules and there's a lot of structure. Some of it is super creative, but digital design, web design, and UX design is closer to engineering than it is to just being wildly creative or illustration. So there's some technical skills you need to use, but those of you who are super computer literate, those of you who are really good with technology, will probably find that you can do really well in my classes. One thing we don't do a ton of, but we look at it, we touch upon it, is we're not really an illustration school. So many people come into graphic design thinking, oh, I love to draw, I want to do something creative. If you really love to draw and you want to be an artist, you probably belong in the other session with the fine arts instructors. Graphic design is not the same as fine art. We have tons of opportunities for you to be creative, but it's not about executing your creative vision. It's about being a hired gun. It's about using your skills to solve a business or communication problem for somebody else's concern. So we will teach you how to design things. We will teach you how to be a creative problem solver, but we won't teach you how to put forth your own artistic vision or teach you how to be an illustrator. That's a sort of different program. So we do say from the beginning that design is separate from art, and it's not about producing the thing that you want to produce. It's producing things for clients which help communicate an idea or a concept or a message. So let me pause for a moment to see if anybody has any questions yet. And also at any point, if you'd like, you are welcome to put questions in the chat. Nothing in the chat yet. Does anybody know anybody who works in graphic design? No questions. Thanks, Louis. I will carry on. So I really have to tell you that one of the greatest things about being a graphic designer, and this is what I do in my professional life. Half my professional life is spent teaching, and half my professional life is doing branding and design and web design and UX design for my clients. One of the great things about our program, most of our instructors are kind of like me, in that we have some professional capacity and some academic capacity, but I've been a designer for almost 20 years now, and I continue to enjoy it. It's brought me a great deal of satisfaction and happiness. And from my own personal experience, I can tell you that being a designer is great, at least as a freelance designer, because I'm always being given new and different creative opportunities for problems to solve. So I design logos, I design packaging, I build websites. Hold on just a sec.
Thank you for coming over, and I totally get it. It's like, I love it, but it's super sketchy looking because it's cold and
Well, we just
Okay, we'll let that distraction go for the moment. So I feel incredibly fortunate in my context as a graphic designer because I get to solve all sorts of different problems for different businesses and different organizations. One of the great things about web design and UX design is the field has been growing so much in the last 15 years since I started teaching at Seattle Central. My boss is really remarkable, and he's given me this opportunity to just improve my skill set. I've been able to keep learning over time. So as the field has grown, I have learned a series of new skills, which have been super helpful in my professional development. And I've gone from web design to WordPress to UX design to motion graphics. And I've been able to continue to grow as a designer as I've grown as an instructor. There's a great overlap between my professional skill sets that I use in my professional life and the new skills that I bring to our students. So I feel really fortunate that I'm learning the latest and greatest techniques and I'm applying that in our classroom. The big thing that we're focusing on right now is a tool called Figma, which is really popular in the design community, which helps you build prototypes for websites and mobile apps. And I've gotten really good at Figma in the last year, and I'm bringing that to our students. The other great thing about our program is that I think that education goes both ways. Ironically, I learn the most, and I spend a lot of time reading and studying about best practices for design. I learn a lot from people who are younger than me. The smartest people are the ones out on YouTube and in the blogosphere writing articles about how to be a better designer. Awesome examples of, let's see. Please give us examples about what a UX designer can create. That's a fantastic. So UX designers first solve problems and don't necessarily make things look pretty. So many people think that graphic design is about making things which look attractive, which is true, but the UX designer is more likely to make something which is called a wireframe. And the UX designer uses a principle called design thinking to solve problems for the user. A design thinking framework says, let's begin our inquiry with principles of empathy and say, how can I solve a better problem for the user? So have you guys ever been to a website or used a mobile app, which was really frustrating? Give me a thumbs up if that's ever happened to you. Anybody tried to order something online and was a total drag? So that's what we call a bad user experience. The user experience was poorly designed. A positive user experience is something which is super easy to use. It's so easy that you barely have to think about it. Are any of you guys using Spotify? I'm just going to assume that's a yes because everybody's heard of Spotify because everybody's using it. Spotify is a great example of a great user experience because people did a lot of research and they made a lot of prototypes and they said, how can we make this so easy that everybody wants to use it? So the way a user experience designer works is someone gives them a problem to solve. And then we come up with something called a how might we statement. How might we solve this? How might we make this process easier to accomplish? How might we make this process go faster? And then they do something called user research, where they interview a bunch of people and say, what are your pain points? What do you find frustrating about this company or this business or their app or their website? And we log that research down. We said, based on our research, there's a lot of problems with the app and we're going to propose some new features. After proposing those new features, they make a prototype. A prototype is kind of like a temporary mini version of the app or the website, which we put in front of people and say, what do you think? Was this better? And then we get some feedback. And then we actually go and make those changes happen. We give those visual designs to the developers and we actually have them coded and we make the app or the website better based on our interactions with human beings. So if you like problem solving and you like people and you like the study of psychology and you think to yourself, how can I make something better? How can I make it work more smoothly? How can I satisfy the needs of a greater number of people? You probably have a good head for UX design. However, that's not the, it's the other end of the spectrum from visual design. It's not being super creative. It's not using any drawing. It's super empirical and rational and about decision making and about making a process which empowers individuals rather than expressing your creative vision. So UX designer begins by making wireframes, then they refine those into prototypes, then they turn it into visual design, then they hand it to an engineer or a developer who codes it and makes it into a functioning app or a website. You guys will be exposed to all of these techniques, although you won't have to learn off the high level of coding in order to produce an app or a website. Have you had any students enter the video game industry producing graphics for studios or even UX? Yes, we have. We have many students working for Niantic right now, which I'm sure you guys know who that is since they produce Pokemon Go or the Pokemon franchise. We have many students working on game projects over at Microsoft, and we have multiple students every year being moved into UX. So we are not the best school for game design. There are DigiPen on the east side. If you really want to be a video game artist, you would go to DigiPen because you would get a better education there. But if you wanted to focus on the UX of game design, you could certainly go through our program. And many of our students have successfully entered the game industry after going through our program. Before I got on that thread, I was saying how fortunate I feel because also to be working at Seattle Central. So Seattle Central is a really remarkable place. I've been teaching here for over 15 years. I continue to enjoy my job every day because I'm working with a lot of young people, and there's a lot of young people who have a lot of great ideas and a lot of great energy. I'm also learning a lot from young people because I spend a lot of time watching videos on YouTube and reading blog posts about people who are doing innovative things with design and technology. I find it to be a super stimulating field, and there's tons of room for growth. And I've been able to continue to grow and learn as an instructor and take on new techniques. And I feel really fortunate to be able to do that. We have a really progressive environment at the school. We have cutting edge technology at our fingertips. We have 3D printers and laser cutters and video cameras and large screen TVs and audio equipment. We've got a fantastic room with a ton of really expensive toys. If you wanted to build something, if you wanted to do something amazing, if you wanted to learn a combination of skill sets, if you had a vision that you wanted to be great, it's a fantastic opportunity for you to grow and learn those skills to gain the ability to do great things, both while you're in school and once you get out of school. If you're a little closer to the photography and video end of it, but there's also another program called Visual Media, which is our sister program. We overlap and share resources on the 5th floor. The Visual Media program will help you learn how to make videos, TV commercials, film, and the sort of the motion graphics end of it. Ours is more the sort of static graphic design, image-oriented end of it. But the two programs share resources and share inspiration, and we have fantastic instructors in the Visual Media program, and the kids in that program are doing really amazing work as well. We have a 10,000 square foot state-of-the-art photo studio with lighting and green screen and everything that you could possibly need, and all the tools at your disposal to learn how to become a great filmmaker as well. And of course, our studios are filled with state-of-the-art computers. And if you choose to go into the graphics art program, you've probably heard of Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator. This is called the Creative Cloud subscription. If you want to start learning those tools, you can get a student discount, which makes it super cheap and affordable to get the software on your computer. And then we have tons of resources to help you learn that software so that you can feel much more comfortable in terms of the technology and the tools that is required to build the sort of projects you're going to build when you get out of here. Now, I do have to point out that many of our students are a little older than the average high school student. So our most successful students are actually about 25 or 28 years old. So some of the students will be older than you, but shouldn't be intimidating because everybody collaborates and cross-pollinates really well. But if a typical student has already had a few years of college, is working on a second career, realizes they want to be a graphic designer, has had some work experience, and is fairly disciplined and can work very hard to get the most out of the program. So younger students have a certain advantage. You guys don't know this, those of you who are in high school right now, but from the age when you're 16 to 20 is when your brain is at its most elastic. You can take in the most amount of information. You're capable of learning at a much faster rate. When you get to be my age, it gets harder and harder to learn new things. But at your age, you have this great opportunity that you can take in tons of information and you can grow by leaps and bounds just by the sheer ability of your youth. So for those of you who are super literate in what I call digital natives, those of you who have been using Google Docs since you were in elementary school, those of you who were able to jump onto Discord and learn it right away, those of you who are using messaging apps all the time or have grown up with Instagram, we call those people digital natives. And if you guys are good at learning new software, give me a thumbs up if you can learn a new program really quickly, or even a new video game really quickly. So what we're finding is that the young people are much more facile. They can learn new skills really quickly, and we show them once and we say, hey, here's how Photoshop works. And the 17 and the 18-year-olds, while they don't quite have the same experience as the older students, they learn things really quickly. Some of you are probably realizing that's probably you right now. We do have people who enter our program as 18-year-olds, and by the time they leave as 20-year-olds, they're ready to enter the workforce. So for those of you who are reconsidering or are thinking, maybe I don't want to go to a 4-year school, maybe I have financial challenges, or I just want to get out and have a job and be employed sooner, our program is really good for that. So if you like the idea of working as a UX designer and solving problems, or working as a web designer, or a brand designer, or a filmmaker, or a person who makes marketing materials, or all the sort of creative work that Design is all around us, from signage to advertising to the web to things that happen on the big boards at the stadiums. All those people went through a program like ours. And if you see visual design assets in the world around you, that's done by graphic designers. If you'd like to be employed in that context, or you see yourself working for a company like Amazon or Microsoft or Starbucks or REI, that's where many of our graduates are working right now with the skills that they got in our program. So we have multiple success stories of 20-year-olds coming through our program and entering the workforce and making a really respectable salary with little to no debt. I don't know what their debt is on a specific level, but our program is super affordable. I don't remember what the exact numbers are, but it's much less than a four-year school. Of course, it's a community college. That's why you're thinking about it. And if you had the good fortune to, or you could stand your parents long enough to live at home for 2 more years and not incur any debt, you can be fully employed and making a decent salary by the time you're 20. We have multiple instances of students who have been very successful in our program doing just that. However, that transformation, that growth which you can achieve in the time that you're with us does come at a price in terms of long hours and late nights and high stress. I will not kid you, our program is notoriously difficult. It's a very high workload. We have super high expectations. The pressure is very high at times, but we feel that it produces a successful result, because if you were to ask people in the industry, or if to say, where should I go to school? We find that the name of our program comes up over and over again, that we have a great reputation producing some of the best students in the region. And it's a great opportunity for you to learn a skill and be job ready really quickly. I'll pause for a moment to see if anybody has any questions. You're welcome to put your questions into the chat. And then what I'll do is if we have no further questions, I'm going to take you through some of our student works. 10 minutes remaining in breakout rooms. I'm just going to go and share my screen briefly. Oh my, the host has disabled screen sharing. Is Pablo still here? Let me see if I can. Oh, well, I won't share my screen then. Not important. But I would encourage you to check out our website, seattlecentralcreativeacademy.com. And there you can see great examples of the sort of work that our students are doing. But I know that the work that I've seen come out of our program is continually exceeding my expectations. And I think that the students, the amount of growth that they're capable of in the 2-year program, they come in super green and wet behind the ears and seeming to have no idea where to begin. And in the space of just 2 years, they come out with a really larger worldview. They come out super accomplished. They have the technical skills to produce amazing work. They have the presentation skills to discuss that work. And we also have them write a lot. So whether you like writing or you don't like writing, it doesn't really matter. We do have a focus that great graphic designers also need to write about their process. We feel that it helps develop your academic rigor and your intellectual abilities, and you become a graphic designer, a better graphic designer through writing and through speaking and through using the tools, as well as learning the software and learning key foundational principles of communication and Gestalt, which says, I understand how people work and I'm a great problem solver. With these understandings and combined with my understanding of the software and the tools, I can be really well prepared for a job in the graphic design industry. The other great thing about our program is we're located on Capitol Hill. So whether you like it or not, it's a vibrant and exciting part of town. There's lots of young people living in Capitol Hill. Many of our students live right nearby Capitol Hill, and they live within walking distance of the school. Of course, some commute in because I know it's hard to live in Seattle right now, but we have a lot of partnerships with local arts organizations, with local nonprofits, and we try to give you opportunities to work with or to simulate the concept of working with real world clients. We give you projects for nearby local merchants so you can build things that actually have an impact and are seen in the world. And also gives you feedback from real working professionals so that you can get an understanding of where you stand, how good you are, and how close you are to being an accomplished graphic designer. Our students have said that they're really grateful for the time that they spent at the Creative Academy because it gave them the exposure that they needed and it gave them the skill set that they needed in order to prosper as graphic designers in the near future. At any point, if you guys have any additional questions, you're welcome to reach out to me. We also encourage you to come to our open house. I believe we'll have an open house in May. You can tour the, COVID permitting, you can never really predict if it's going to happen or not. But in the past, we've had open houses where you can tour our facilities. You can meet our students. We also have alumni there as well. And we can, you can ask people in real time what it's really like to be here and find out if it's a good fit for you. I will also put my email in the chat. efadiman@gmail.com. If you have any additional questions after this, send me an email. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions about our program or if it's a good fit for you. If you'd like to set up a one-on-one meeting with me over Zoom, I'm happy to answer additional questions. And I should talk briefly about the portfolio requirement. In order to get accepted into our program, there is a portfolio requirement where you'll need to write an essay and you'll need to do a composition exercise, but we'll want to see 10 pieces of your work. So if you have aspirations about trying to get into the program, hopefully you've taken an introduction to graphic design class or some fine art classes in your high school, or you've played around with Photoshop or Illustrator and you're starting to think about design, or you've made some posters or an album cover for a friend, or even silk screened a t-shirt. If you've got some background in graphic design, that will serve as a solid foundation for you to produce a portfolio. But that portfolio will be digital, a PDF. You'll assemble 10 samples of your work and you'll have to write some paragraphs about your process and what you did and how you arrived at this solution. And we take portfolios 4 times a year. In winter, spring, summer, and fall, we have 4 application deadlines, and we have a pretty low rate of acceptance. We're fairly exclusive. I think usually for 50 slots, we have 150 to 200 applicants. So we're pretty competitive. We take 33% roughly in any given year of our applicants. It's hard to get in, and many people apply multiple times before they get in. So I want to brace you for that. If you are accepted, of course, we will let you know, and it's a great opportunity for you to grow as a designer. I think our next portfolio submission date is in May. Mid-May, mid or late May, we'll have another portfolio submission date. And we do something called rolling admissions, in that we start in the fall and we take the first 10 or 20 people, and then in the winter we take 10 or 20 more people. At spring it gets a little sparser, in summer we fill the last few slots. The one thing you should know is we only start in the fall. Everyone starts at the same time, and everyone finishes the program at the same time. So you'll start in September, then you go through a year, then you go through your second year, and everyone graduates at the same time in the following June. You can't just jump in the middle. So if you wanted to get in, the time to start assembling a portfolio would be now, so that you can make our late May application deadline and hopefully start in September. If you're younger or you just don't know what you're doing yet, if you're a year out, that's fine too. There'll be tons of opportunity to apply every quarter, but you can only start at one time of year. So it looks like we're just about out of time. I'll take one last pass on questions. Ask me to everyone, 2 minutes remaining. If I was going to ask if you aren't accepted, you provide any feedback or you just build. Yes, if you aren't accepted, we will give you some written feedback on your portfolio and give you feedback on your strengths and weaknesses and say, we'd like to see more of this or more of that to try to help you understand why you weren't accepted so that you have a better chance. We'll say, please resubmit and try to do more of this or more of that. And it will encourage you to apply again. And sometimes it's just a question of building out your portfolio more, but we'll try to give you feedback, yes. All right, so that's it. We're leaving the breakout room. Of course, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me at any time.